Professor Rajesh Nair. So, before his introduction, I would like Professor Jitendra Mishra to facilitate Professor Rajesh Nair. So a lot of students have already interacted with Professor Rajesh Nair. He is an inventor, product designer, and entrepreneur with more than 25 years of experience in multiple startups in Boston. He believes that anyone could be trained to become an entrepreneur. His research at MIT and later at ASB is in ways to transform youth in underserved communities into entrepreneurs through programs in design, making, and innovation. He has conducted 60 innovation workshops around the world. His current mission is to create 100,000 entrepreneurs in 10 years. So I'm handing over the mic to Professor Rajesh Nair. Thank you.
So I currently, till before my slides come up, I work at Asia School of Business, which is a new business school that MIT Sloan started in Kuala Lumpur 5 years back. I was one of the founding faculty there. And I have been, as he mentioned, I've been an entrepreneur for nearly 30 plus years and designing products and, for all kinds of industries. And I'm starting multiple companies and such in Boston. So the session is on design thinking, and I'm bringing this 30 years of real practice in problem solving, critical thinking. Design thinking is a little bit of a new concept, but it has always been there. Even though the word is new, maybe in 30 years old, but the concept has always been there. So I'm just waiting for the screen to. So when I think about design thinking, when we were kids, from first grade all the way to your master's degrees or PhDs, our primary question, what we were asked of us, is to come up with solutions for any kind of problem that is given. Come up with answers. You had question paper, you're supposed to give answers, and whatever answers, whoever gives the most answers wins. And even today, okay, you have question papers, and answers is what actually counts towards how you have done. But no one has ever asked you, what is the right question? Okay, so as an entrepreneur, your primary job is to find the real interesting question or the real interesting problem. And we have not been trained to do that. You go into the industry, and that is when you start to do some of the, even there, actually problems are given to you, you create solutions. And as an entrepreneur who's actually up in the front of the fight, you need to go find the real problems. And I look at design thinking as a way to get to the problem rather than the solution. And I try to, you have all seen this 5 steps of empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test, the 5 steps. And this is where, the first 2 is where you kind of get to the problem. And the next 2 is where you get to, the next 3 is where you get to the solution. And this is not a direct thing, it's always iterative, okay? So I feel you should be spending about 70% of your time in the problem space. The reason is that if the problem that you have identified is right, even if your first round of solutions don't work, it actually, if your problem is still real, you can go back and fix. But if you have created a wonderful solution to a non-problem, it really doesn't help. Okay, you can go back and there is nothing there to actually build on. So, as techies, we have this tendency to start thinking from technology and then force fit it back to a problem. So, the way I look at it is, if you see a problem, so let's say unhealthy adults, I'm one of them. Okay, so what you see is actually a symptom of a problem. You cannot fix the symptom. Okay, world hunger is a symptom of a larger problem. You cannot just go feed them and say that I'm going to solve the problem. You need to actually get to the cause. any problem has so many different causes that you cannot just fix one cause and fix all those problems either. Okay, so you need to even get back to see what are the leverage points. That means where can you get involved to make a small little change that will make a bigger change downstream. And so if can you reach kids and change their life habits so they grow up to be healthy adults with the right behavior. And as a designer, as a solution provider, I need to create a need. So there's a problem is what you see out there. A need is what the designer has to work with. So if I look back and say the need is that we need to create behavior changes in children. And then you can actually create, how do you create those kind of behavior changes, which changes their behavior, which tends to all the way back to the problem solving. So when you reach an unmet human need, there are multiple ways to solve that. You can create all kinds of strategies to solve it, and each strategy may have different kinds of products to solve, address, and each product could be realized through different kinds of technologies. And I feel design thinking, if you actually started from the need and just started with the need, all the options kind of open up in front of you. And that's kind of design thinking. And this is the curse of the engineer. Anyone who starts your companies, if I ask you what do you do, and if you start with anything like words like AI or IoT based something, what you're saying, I can immediately know that you're an engineer. Okay, because you have started with the technology and you're trying to force fit it to solve a problem. And the problem is that when you reach the other end, you found a problem, then when you read left to right, there are much better options that are out there, even though you have kind of force-fitting something. Even when you go through this whole iteration, you're going to go through field trips. I call it empathy field trip. You go understand, we'll actually go through that. You observe, you come back with a lot of kinds of inferences, and you come back and define the problem, define the need, and then you go through ideation on all kinds of different solutions, and then you find one thing that you really want to do. So you're going to go through this flaring and focusing process, while you go from left to right. So when you go out to the field, you're going to have a lot of observations. So observations, I notice something, and you inferences, maybe this is what could be happening in there, and the insight or the hunch is that maybe what kind of things can you launch from there? What are the actionable items? So if you put your concept in this format, we met someone and we saw all this. I'll actually take you through some exercise. So we met and we saw this person, and I was surprised to notice that this was the behavior the person was actually showing. Maybe this is what could be happening behind in his mind or in his society or in his life. It could be interesting if you could actually go change that by creating a solution. Okay, so you're starting with observations and inference and insight, and then an action plan. Of course, Mario Brothers. Okay, this inference is a leap of faith, because your observations and your first inference will never be right. You always have to go back and validate it. You observe something and so this could be happening. My inference is this is what is happening in your life. That may or may not be right. Okay, so you need to kind of fine tune it. When GE, one of the GE, I met this guy. He's an engineer at GE. He was in the design team of the imaging equipment. So when he once visited the hospitals, he found that kids with illness who need to be imaged quite often, they were of course, they would not actually lie down on a CT scanner or such, and a lot of them need to get some kind of sedation so that they would actually lie down so they could actually get the imaging. And when you look back at the life of these kids, they've been kind of brought to this hospital. They don't like to come to the hospital because they know what's happening. And they are in a managed life. these kids cannot go out and play and such. And they're asked to lie down on this thing where all the adults step out, and you have this machine, which this is a happy kid, okay. But when you look into this is a VCT, GE's video CT machine. It makes a lot of noise, and she's scared, and she wants to get out, and now the image is spoiled, and then you have to go back and all these kind of things. Just to show you, this is what the inside of a VCT looks like. I was involved in the design of this in my last company. So this is for GE's machine. And the amount of, let me see if it even makes.
Be very, very enriched by
that is a VCT. That is a CT machine.
by having this.
And this is where you are asking the kids to lie down in the middle and don't get up. Okay, don't be scared. And that too, this kid who has already got a couple of shots and been brought to this house, to this place. What would you do? Any ideas? Anyone? If you were noise cancellation headphones for the kid, okay. Yeah, but is it the noise alone that is affecting it? Yeah, visuals, okay, maybe show some images so that you can distract the kid. But at this point, the kid is scared. Kid is bringing a lot of other things to this party. Okay. So when this engineer went out to the field, he went to these kids' homes. And when they interviewed, he realized that these kids said, my brother gets to go out and play, and I don't, because obviously the kid is ill and you don't want to expose the kid to too many other things. And their siblings had these little awards for whatever games or whatever. So the insight was that life-threatening illness suck all the life, adventure out of these kids. Kids don't have any adventure because they've been tightly managed. So they wrote, we met, say, Sarah, who's a cancer patient. She was scared when she comes to the hospital. She's kind of lonely, and she had a tightly managed life. She wants to experience fun like any other kid, because she doesn't get the opportunity. And it would be great to create an adventure experience at the hospital. What would you do? Sorry? She's okay. Also, you're getting onto it. Okay. So what they did was they created these machines, and they painted, and they created this a place where you're the Pirate of the Caribbean kind of a outlook, where the kids, the doctors wear these hats and fake pirate and eye patch, and all the staff is all dressed up as pirates, and take this kid and say, we're going on an adventure, and you go through the whole process and make the kid lie down and say, you're going on a ship, this is going to make a lot of noise, lie down still, you're part of the adventure. This helped them bring down the amount of sedation they need to give these kids so that they could actually lie down and go through the process. So that is design thinking. If the first day, if you ask a hospital, what would you do, to get this kid, lie down on the CT scanner, we would have come up with several other things. We say, tie her down and belt her down, or whatever else you thought about, all kinds of other things. But if you really go back in her experience life, and you realize what is really missing, and if you can address that, you can actually solve a larger problem. So empathize. Why do you have to empathize when you go out? You're going on a field trip after this. You need to understand the people that you're going to meet and understand their situation. And the problems that they feel and they suffer, you don't even know anything about it. The problems that they have are rarely yours. You need to understand how they're thinking and feeling. What kind of pressure acts on them. Primarily, what kind of forces are they under. You need to actually get to that point where you can understand that. We'll actually go through a little bit of an exercise. So you need to immerse yourself in the community, observe what is happening, and engage with them to understand. So we'll go through a little bit of an exercise in observation. I used to, when I do groceries, at home I do groceries. It's kind of mind-numbing stuff to take a list from my wife, and I walk around picking up things and putting into the basket. So I watch people and kind of think about what could be happening in their life. It's very easy, of course, I'm 100% wrong, and I would never actually tell them anything about it. Okay, it is all in my own life. Okay, these two people are walking, and maybe this is what is happening in there. Maybe they met 20 years back, whatever else, and you could actually make up a whole bunch of stories in your head. But if you make it a practice, you can watch people and at least start to get a rough idea of what could be happening, which you could actually go validate. Okay, so don't think of them as two individuals. Think of them as people with a lot of history and see how you can actually get to that. So when you watch someone, think of what are they doing? How are they doing? How far does the emotions and the issues that they could be there? And why are they doing it? And this is a little bit of an inference. So if you went to Dharavi or anywhere else, when you interview and talk to people, get a little behind in their life, not just what they say. Okay, get a little bit of understanding. This is just an observation. I'll actually go through interaction after this. So I'm going to show you a picture. Okay, I'd like you to tell me, what do you see? What do you see? You see a woman, red hat, she has a phone, she has some newspaper or something. There's a guy kind of standing awkwardly at the back, and there's all kinds of things at the back, So observation, exactly what you see. No, there's no emotion to it. Okay? Can you now tell me what could be happening? A little bit of an emotion in what you see here. Anyone, speak up. Yeah, it looks like she's waiting for something. There's some anticipation there. There is some awkwardness in his body language. Okay, he looks like his face is looking away from the girl. I have no idea if eyes are looking at the girl. The girl's head is looking away on the other side. I have no idea if her eyes are looking at him. There is maybe she's going for a party or something. Don't know. She's waiting for something. Now, I'd like you to tell me a story of these people that ended in this scene. Where basically I'm asking you is to go back in their life and tell me what could have happened in their life, and it ended here. Please. You give the microphone. Do you have a microphone? Yeah. Just go back and make it a really juicy story.
Sure. So the woman she's been dating this guy for like 3 years, and he's been going on and on about how much he loves her. But her friend just caught him cheating on her. And so her friend sent him a text with all these pictures, and she got to see him. So she just had this nasty fight on the phone. She's in the middle of the streets in New York. Or London or wherever this is. And they're fighting, and she's just like, I hate you. I'm done with you. Like, the next guy I see, I'm going to date him instead. And she hangs up. She hangs up the phone, and she looks over to the left, and what do you know? There's a guy. And scene cut.
Scene cut to the scene. Okay. Anyone else? Any interesting, juicy story? Come on. This is the time to speak up. Thank you for stepping up. Okay. Anyone else? I'd like to hear one more story. Come on. No? Okay. Yeah, there's a brave soul in the back. Go ahead. It is about looking at a picture and making up a whole story. Yep.
So the car behind that, so we can see that there is a handicapped child. Okay, so the parents are putting him into the car, and the girl is wondering that how are they treating him with love, and then they make him sit in the car. So he's wondering that thing by sitting over there, and at the same point of time, the guy comes there. He might be waiting for his friend.
Okay, so there are multiple stories that don't completely converge, but that's okay, But this is what I'm saying. You could actually, and I have no idea if any of this is right. Okay, so this is actually a random picture from Google. I did not take this picture. I just went on, look for people, a picture with people, and that's what I did. So, uh, any situation that you walk into has a bunch of stakeholders. You cannot assess the situation unless you understand who are all the people around them. Okay, and you may have the key person, and then you have all kinds of people around them, and you have all kinds of different connections between them. Some people may have influence over you. Some people, you may have, have certain interests, but you may not have the power to change things. But others may have influence. There's a whole bunch of different things here, okay? And if you do not understand each one's interest, and if you only solve the problem in the middle, you may not actually solve the full system. You need to understand what could be happening. Okay, so I won't go into too many examples. Normally, this we would have just gone through international. We take international. Okay, let's just do a quick. Who is in the middle of the story in the world right now? One person who's a lot of in the news. I know this always. It never fails me. Okay, so Trump. Tell me, what are the forces acting on him? What are his issues that he's facing? So there's Iran pressure there. Of course, you have impeachment, which is going to the Senate for hearing right now, which the Republicans may throw out. He is still impeached forever. Then what? If there's election coming up, he needs to win the election, and if 3 or 4 senators step aside, if the trial is going to go south, and he may never actually he may be thrown out. Okay, so he is worried about that. In the meantime, what's happening in the world? There's Brexit happening. There is stuff in Russia, China embargo. There's a whole bunch of things happening around him. And if you were in his shoes, what would be the couple of things? What would be the couple of things that you would really want to do? One is distract, okay, and win the election. Because if he has to win the election, he cannot win. He need to create a larger problem somewhere else. What do you think he may do? I think the Iran war may actually happen. That is my take. So just so that he could change the discussion to something else, and he would actually have the space to bring his group together. So, but unless you can actually look at all the things around them, you cannot just understand the problem that a person is facing. So that is basically what I wanted to tell you. So in engagement, I want one volunteer. Anyone? I want to interview. Please, come on up. Give him a mic, please. So, give your name.
Parikshit.
Parikshit. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for stepping up. Okay. I did not ask him, this was not planned. Okay, so.
What about the money?
Good. So, I'm going to show you a few statements and tell me what pleases you most of all these things. Finding washed and ironed clothes in the morning when you wake up. When your checkout line is moving faster than others. Someone receiving you at the airport with flowers. It has never happened to me. Okay. I know somebody tried to sell me flowers, but never actually received me. Walking into your home after a long while to the smell of mom's cooking. Receiving an unexpected raise or promotion at work. Finding that the store has a shoe you want in your size and it's on sale. I think it's primarily for women. Your little sister coming home bloody nose saying she beat up the class bully. Meeting someone from the past who says they made a difference to you. Or your selfie getting 1,000 likes.
Can we have more details about that someone?
You tell me. It doesn't matter. You just pick one. Pick one. It's okay, anything. I'm not going to put you in trouble. Okay, don't worry.
Okay. Genuinely, I would select the bottom one.
Okay, so meeting someone from the past, tell me about it. Come. So, tell me about a time when that has happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just think about it for a minute. I'm not making it up.
No, 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 you don't make up.
So obviously, so let me just introduce myself a little more. I'm one of the students at MIT. So I helped one of my friends navigate through the application process for another school. And after helping them out for about a week or two, I never heard from them until they got in one of the good schools in the US. So at that point in time, I felt this thing and I could make a difference in someone's life. That's why I'm here as well. So
Wow.
that's the thing.
And can you talk about a time when someone else has helped you in something like that?
Of course, a lot of my seniors helped me get into the place that I'm right now. So I owe it to them. That's why I'm doing it for everyone else.
Wow, Andre, wonderful. And uh, what do you, so tell me the person that you helped, how did you meet him and give me a little bit of,
Younger brother of my friend at school. So
okay, and where was it? In Mumbai?
in Delhi, I'm from Delhi.
Oh, you're from Delhi,
Sorry
okay.
about that, but yeah.
No, that's okay. So tell me about Delhi. So for how long have you been in Delhi?
I was born in Delhi and I was in Delhi for about 25 years. That's when I decided to move out and I moved out of the country.
So can you talk about why, why did you want to leave Delhi? How was, tell me a little bit more about Delhi.
I did not volunteer for this, honestly. I thought I was just selecting one thing here.
Yeah.
So it was not because I wanted to leave Delhi, because I wanted to pursue something. And I wanted to pursue it from a place which would, fit my criteria. That's why I decided to
What were you studying in Delhi?
I did my engineering from Delhi College of Engineering
Wow,
and I finished
okay.
that. And then I worked with GE. That machine that you showed, that's PET-CT. I worked on that exact machine.
Oh, okay. 256 slice.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
So, so you did the engineering.
Yeah.
Okay. So at home, how did people feel when you said you wanted to leave home? Talk about home.
They were okay with it. I mean, they were like, yeah, you're going to a good place. I mean, why not?
Oh, wonderful. Who else is at home for you?
My mom, my dad, and my brothers in Russia. So we are.
Okay,
different
one in
continents.
America, one in Russia. That's wonderful. Okay. So, how often do you get back home and?
I think this is the first time after I started my course at MIT. So
Okay.
you know how it gets.
Yeah, I know exactly. I remember never had money to come back here for a long while. Okay, so, and what would you like to do when you say 5 years or 10 years from now?
Okay, this is turning into an interview now. So I do have a broad plan in mind, but I
Okay.
don't know what I'll be doing. I want to get into. So I'll be working as an investment banker with EY starting March, and eventually down the line I want to work in private equity or hedge funds. So that's my 5-year plan.
5-year plan. Okay, so everything okay. You're planning to everything. You believe you have everything to build you, take you to where you want to go.
I don't know that yet. I
You don't
haven't
know that
started.
yet.
Yeah.
What is missing? What do you think is missing?
I haven't been in the industry yet, so I have worked in manufacturing, but I've never stayed in finance for a long
Okay.
time. So I just have some theoretical things, not industry related.
Okay, so for sake of time, I just started with some random thing. Okay, can you talk about what have you read from this person's interview? What all did you get from this interview?
So do I get the job?
Depends on what you want. Okay, so this whole idea was I could actually start from any topic and I can kind of get you down to where you want to understand a lot more about the person. So this was just a random things I asked. It had nothing to do with what I really wanted to know from you. Okay, if you had a little bit more time, of course we are running. I would have actually, you would have opened up. You would have talked about a whole lot more things.
That's
okay,
true, that's
you
true,
know.
yes, yeah.
So because of course he didn't want to perform in front of others, and if it is one-on-one, we could have had this discussion for a long time. So by engaging and in listening and repeating and leading a little bit, so you can actually get to where you want. You can actually hear a lot from people. People like to talk about their life if you give an honest hearing. The question is, when we go out into the field to understand a customer or a user's problem, we look at it from, okay, tell me 2 things, and then you go back and we start to design. You actually have to get deeper into their life, into the way they use, the way they live the product. Okay, thank you so much. Okay. So the idea was, how do you meet people and try to get information that would actually help you in identifying the problem that they're facing, so you could actually work on a solution for them. So when you do the interview, of course, ask a lot of whys. Have you heard of this 5 whys thing? Okay. You know, when you ask more and more whys, they start to tell you more and more, and you can actually get to the core of things. Encourage stories. Tell me about a time when that happened. You know, how did it make you feel? You know, look for nonverbal cues. Okay, I could sense this, and I asked him, you know, when have you come back? You know, he said, I could see that he is the first time he's coming back. I could feel that, you know, he's missing home for a long while, and I could see the body move. Okay, uh, don't be afraid of silence. When you ask a question, if the person doesn't answer, don't fill it in with your voice. Listen, okay, and give them time to respond. Don't suggest answers, of course, and don't ask questions that could be given the binary answer, yes or no. We want them to talk more about things, you know. So most often what you would see is that the moment you meet a person, you immediately kind of know these are the issues, because it's kind of things are obvious. Some of the problems are very obvious. How do you deal with this? How do you can't just tell them, okay, this is your problem, because I can see it so clearly. Okay, so I hope the
It's just there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me most, is that I don't know if it's
it's I don't know why it is. I can hear it twice. You can turn this mic off. I'll turn mine also off. Okay. Now is when all my engineering training is coming into action. Let's see.
it's just there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Are you going to switch off? Again? Ready? I'm sorry, the kind of it loses its. Who are you talking to? Yes?
It's just there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail...
See, you're not listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you.
Ow! Come on, if you would just...
Don't!
Try to sneak things my way!
Okay, so let me see. I think third time was a charm. Okay. So when you go on your empathy visits, interview people, have conversation, you know, be human, you know, like don't be like an engineer. I know engineers are like half human, half whatever. I'm one, so I can always say that. Okay, seeks to ask about stories and get their feelings and get to the human side of things. One way is to if I went to someone and say, "Tell me what's your problem," what do you think they would say? Normally they say no problem. Why? Because you haven't built trust. First thing is, I don't know this guy coming in from the street and asking me for my problem, why should I tell him anything? Second thing is, I don't know if this guy is trustworthy. Third is, what is he going to do? He can't do anything about it anyways. So I don't want to talk about it. He said, nothing. I don't have anything. So you need to build trust first. So with simple engaging questions of, how are you to, talk about the family and life and things like that, without things that they can very easily answer, you can actually build trust. And the next thing is ask about aspirational things. What do you think your kids should be when they grow up? Why do you think what this community should be? If you had your way, where would you think these kids would go to or something? You talk about aspirational things. And then you can ask about what is stopping you from getting there. Stuff will start to come out. Okay. As an exercise, I think we have 45 minutes. So I'll give a very, very short exercise. The exercise is, pair up. One person start interviewing the other. Have an open discussion. And after 3 minutes, we'll switch. And I'd like you to see if you can gather some interesting story that other person had not told you before. So you have, on the whole, say 6 minutes. Pair up and start. This normally is a class, okay? So it is kind of so much easier to work with the talk. You can actually talk. This year, absolutely free to talk.
मेरे को बैलेंस शीट से ये निकाल के दे बस भाई मेरे से अभी पढ़ाई नहीं होगा ये आजा आजा तू भी इसके साथ तेरा आज पढ़ाई नहीं होगा आज पढ़ाई नहीं होगा अब बोल चल बोल क्या बोल रहे हैं ऐसे ही चुप के बैठा हुआ है इधर क्या करने के फैंसी यहाँ पे तुम सो सकते हो ऐसे पीछे से तुम्हारे साथ में मिलेगा मतलब बोरिंग से समय तो यार बड़े दोस्ता है ये बस कॉलेज के लोग वैसे नॉर्मल होगा वो लोग क्वेश्चन पूछे कैसे पढ़ो अच्छा मैं नीचे तीन ही लोग हैं कोई व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बना हुआ है हाँ मुझे ऐड करो पर मेरा तो मेंटर का कुछ लोग परिवार बोले मेरे को ऑडी में नहीं बना नहीं मैं मेंटर वाला स्टेज पे बैठ गया रात को जो ऊपर में लोग पहले से बोले
So when you do the interviewing, there are several other techniques like mirroring and active listening engagements, repeating some of the things that they said, if using some of the words to say back so that they know that you're listening, and actually be very honest about listening. And people start opening up, and it is very easy to make people talk to you. Okay, and so I won't go too much into, I really wanted to hear some interesting observations any of you had, but I only have 45, a little bit of time. So the next stage is that of define. We went through empathize. Okay, that it's over. So in the define stage, what is it? There's a cat? Okay. Okay, so in the define stage, what you really need to do is you have a lot of observations, what you saw, what you heard, and you need to synthesize and unpack and synthesize all the things that you heard. And you need to kind of focus down to, okay, this is a need that the people have. Okay. And identify the driving forces. Basically, understand what kind of pressure the person is under. What are the different kinds of issues that the person feels? How much wiggle room does the person have to make a difference? A lot of times when you watching, if you walk into a boardroom or a meeting room, within about first 5 minutes, you kind of understand, okay, it looks like this guy reports to this person, and this person is dealing with this, and this person is preferred by this guy. You can actually watch that. You can see how their bodies are turned towards each other, how they look at someone before they say something, as if they need to get their permission to say. Or you can actually understand the pecking order in the room very easily by just watching. Okay, so understand what is the pressure that they're under. Take all the ideas and you're going to come back and write it on post-it pads or something and put it on your whiteboard. So I saw this, I heard this. Then you can actually put it all together to understand what could be really happening. So normally this whole session is one full day, okay, and then we go out for later on the second day. But I'm trying to do it all in under 2 hours. Okay, so there's a lot being packaged here. Okay, so if there's one message you want to take away from this, is the question of abstraction. Is a message of abstraction. So if you walked out there and if you saw an old man begging for money, and if you start to talk to him, you can't be modeling that there is one guy who has a problem. Abstract means how many other people face the same problem, first thing. Why do they face this problem? And if they face these problems, what are the causes of the issues? So abstract out as much as possible. Just zoom out as far as possible. Otherwise, you may solve one particular problem that one person is facing. When you abstract out, you start to see what could be the pattern. And if this happens to this person, how many other people could it be happening to? And you should be able to scale it and see it from different angles. And develop insights that could explain what is happening. And at the end of the thing, define one need that the B is missing. So that you need to solve as part of the problem. So then comes ideation. So once you have observed, defined what could be happening, now you have to get into ideation mode. Okay, how many of you have gone through ideation exercises before? Some of you have gone. So we'll just go through one quickly. Again, for lack of time, we'll actually do that as soon as possible, as fast as possible. So when you are in ideate mode, you need to recreate lots of ideas. Okay, radical ideas as much, step beyond the obvious solutions that you can think of. I'll just take you through a quick. Now, in this case, we need to actually talk in groups. Okay, the problem I'm going to give you is, how do you keep children from poor communities in school? Okay, so again, a random problem, but I can give you some of the causes. One of the thing is this lack of transportation. Oops, went too fast. Okay. So the question is, how do you? Right now I'm working with the education group track right now. The issues that the 6 problems, things that keep students from school. One is lack of transportation, cost of school, gender inequality, child labor. Some of the kids are sent to the farm or the factory to bring money for the home, child marriage, or conflict. So your job now in smaller groups, if you could come up with, only 2 minutes, if you can come up with as many ideas as possible, okay? Groups of 4 or 5. Again, this normally would be done in a classroom with teams already established. So if you could actually face each other and do a quick discussion on what could you do to come up with some ways to solve this problem. Okay, that was 2 minutes. Any interesting ideas? Anyone? Shout out. Yes.
Could be more schools could be more regionally responsive. Like children could be given certification for stuff they already need to learn in villages.
Okay. School should be regionally responsive.
So if you see most of the parents, they don't want to send their children to school because they earn money for them. So probably the school teaching them one skill through which they can earn more money. So
Wonderful.
they go to school, they have their the normal schedule and learn one skill through which they earn more money.
Got it. So in addition to the school curriculum, you learn a skill. Okay.
Like people from reasonably well-off background could fund a child. Like pick a household, say I could fund the
Okay.
Kids'
So
education.
pick a household and give money for
Ensure that the school has a midday meal scheme so that the
the
poorer
midday
children.
meal. So to
Yeah.
attract the kid to
Yeah.
make sure that yeah.
Well, we know that children are very creative by their own nature. They have huge sense of creativity. So I would say if there is any art which is localized to that area, you can make the kids do the art and you can sell it and create a source of income, which might push them to come to school and earn a living also.
Good. The skill. Okay.
So teach using, excuse me, so
Yeah. Where are you?
hello,
Go ahead.
teach
Yeah.
using creative methods with the resources which are obtained from the nearby spaces in their locality.
Okay. So regional.
So I have something to say. So I feel that our education system is like, I think to teach poor kids, we need different models. Like they don't feel connected with their teachers. So maybe different system to teach them.
Okay,
Like they
use a
should
different-
create rapport like
Currently, it's a rote learning. So change of the way of teaching. Last one. One more.
Providing them with food, there's an economic stress on the family, so they send their kids for work or for some other things. But if schools are providing meals for such kids, then the burden of will be shared by school, and parents may not have to earn extra resources to feed their kids, so it will balance the situation.
Okay, so we heard a lot of interesting ideas, okay? And the interesting thing is when we heard the idea, we all said, yeah, that should work, okay? Now, when I look back at an idea that someone presents to me, and if I understood it the first time, if I told 10 people an idea and 8 of them understood immediately, I would drop the idea. Why? Because it is obvious. Because we all have little boxes of experience in our life, and we pick ideas that we know would work within our box. Okay? And our boxes are very similar in our lives. So in your box, if you said, okay, this idea would work, and if I could completely understand it, I think a million other people can also think about that. So question is, if I presented an idea to 10 people and 9 of them said this is not going to work, I'm going to think I'm onto a different path that others can't even think about. Okay, so it's not that I need to have 9 of them telling me it is good so that I can proceed. I really want 9 of them to tell me this is a really crappy idea, but I have given enough thought to it that actually I know it works. So that is the way you really need to start to think about ideas outside our comfort zone. No, so that was just a quick exercise on that. We are going to come back to it. Okay. So we presented the idea. So if I asked you, a pencil and an eraser cost $1.10, and a pencil costs $1 more than the pencil, than the eraser. What's the cost of the eraser? Okay? So normally, if, think about 10 cents, and some of them say 5 cents. Okay, so this is a very common test that people have already done. This is not mine. This is actually Kahneman who did this test. The reason is that he talks about these two systems of thinking. System 1 and system 2. System 1 is impulsive. If something makes sense, I think that is the end of it. I actually got the idea. If I had asked you what is 364 times 3 over 293, you do not have an impulsive answer. You need to go back and analyze it, or at least use a computer or calculator. But normally what happens is that system 2 is more analytical, but it is lazy. If system 1 comes up with anything that actually looks like it's going to work, system 2 is going to say, that's it. Okay, that is good enough for me. Okay, so we do not get past the little first set of answers that we get in our mind. And how do you get past those in our ideation? You almost have to take out the first 50 ideas and throw them out. And only then you start to say, okay, now I have exhausted all the obvious things that I can think of. Only then you can actually step outside the box. So in our ideation method, I would not take you through the whole ideation method at this point, but normally I don't know if you have done this, you write ideas on a notepad and stick it, and there are certain rules. One is defer judgments. We want people to tell you crazy ideas. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't work. Absolutely doesn't matter if it doesn't work, okay? But the moment someone says some crazy idea, and if you say, that's not going to work, you're already starting to judge them, okay? Second is encourage wild ideas. Go for craziest ideas. Because if I gave a really, really crazy idea out here, you can always interpolate. If I say that, Superman is going to come and do certain things, at some point I can replace it with a drone. But if I hadn't talked about that, I would not have actually had a chance to come up with something in between. Build on others' ideas. If someone gives a crazy idea, build on it. Take it to the next level, because you need to have as many ideas out there so that you can actually interpolate. Have one conversation when you're having this discussion. Stay on topic. Suddenly don't think of what's for lunch. Okay. Be visual. You can draw pictures, because of one picture can actually represent a whole lot more words than you can write, and have as many ideas as you can. So the interesting thing is, how do you take one idea and build on it? So you all know Professor Ramesh Raskar, at least he has come and taught here several times. He had come up with this whole idea of how do you get to the next idea. So he called it the idea hexagon. So he was my teacher, and he has actually done this, and I've kind of used it quite often. And if you had one idea, how do you get to the next idea? And that was a question that he was trying to get to. So idea could be a picture that you saw, a design that you saw, a piece of music that you heard, an algorithm, a product that you saw. It doesn't really matter. Okay, a sales or a marketing idea, whatever. How do you take it to the next level? So one thing is take it to the next dimension. Okay, so take the same thing and scale it up or place it into the next dimension. So so these are companies, for Uber, Tinder, Birchbox, and Airbnb, and these are all the different things that people have used the same business idea for. You can see for dogs and food and weed and laundry, parking, massage, just about all kinds of things. How do you take this business idea and apply it to different things? Okay, and the yellow ones are still open, by the way, for if you really want to do a startup. And actually, the second concept is I won't go too deep into it because of time. Second idea is to connect to unrelated things. So for most of us, long back, a boarding pass is a piece of card that the airline gives you. Then it became a thing that you print at home on your own personal printer. Then someone said, hey, anyway, pretty much everyone is carrying your phone. Why can't you put boarding pass on your phone? okay? And they created all the systems, including the reader and everything else that go with it, okay? And it is pretty much there in quite a lot of airports all over the world. You know, so question is, how do you connect to unrelated things? So if you were to connect to unrelated ideas, so I took a pencil sharpener and a strainer, tea strainer. So the moment you start to ideate, you have to zoom out. Pencil sharpener, if you say pencil sharpener is only for pencil sharpening a pencil, you kind of lost the idea. So it is a machine that can process material. Tea strainer is a process of separation. If I were to put these two ideas of these two things together, can you think of any product that you can do? Sorry? Meat means, yeah. So, okay. Any other product ideas? You can take these two concepts and put coffee, yeah, coffee grinding machine. Gravel, cutting stones into smaller and then separating out into small things. You could actually take these two ideas and connect them and create new concepts on top of it. I would normally make them draw these things. Okay, so here are the ideas. How do you take a concept and do exactly the opposite? So during Second World War, they had several of these planes that came back, and someone saw that they had these gunshots at the bottom of the plane. Okay, and they said, "Oh my God, these areas, we should actually reinforce those areas of the plane so that the gunshot won't bother the plane." While they were doing it, a statistician who said, "Idiot, the planes that got hit in the other place didn't come back. Okay, these are the planes that survived. Okay, so actually you should be reinforcing the other spaces which are white."